Hey everybody, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. So, let's talk about Thor. Again. For those who haven't been watching my series lately, I've been talking about the Norse god of thunder's roles in the Marvel Cinematic Universe ever since 2017, ranging from his main films like his 2011 debut movie, the film where he teamed up with Dr. Jane Foster to defeat the Dark Elves and keep the Reality Stone out of their hands, the film where he teamed up with Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk, to defeat his evil half-sister Hela, who tried to conquer and break down Asgard, and the films where Thor teamed up with the Avengers to stop Loki, Ultron, and the Mad Titan Thanos. And as I said during my blog of Endgame, Thor has been going through a lot after the snap, like when he relocated and settled with the surviving Asgardians and the Sicarians to Tonsberg, Norway, which was re-established as New Asgard, and he became a depressed and overweight drunkard. But then, during this year in 2023, Thor joined up with the Avengers on a time heist to retrieve the Infinity Stones and resurrect all the people who were snapped. And afterwards, Thor, Captain Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, and the other Avengers battled against a 2014 version of Thanos, which ended with Stark sacrificing his life to destroy Thanos' forces. After attending Stark's funeral, Thor, along with Korg, joined up with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he proclaimed Valkyrie as the king of the Asgardians. Now, to me, Thor has really come a long way ever since his debut movie in 2011, and with the recent theatrical release of the Guardians of the Galaxy's third movie, why don't I take a look into Thor's fourth movie and share my thoughts on it. Released on July 8th, 2022, the movie is Thor: Love and Thunder. Now, on for the plot of the film. In this movie, Thor embarks on a quest for inner peace. However, his retirement gets interrupted by Gorr the God Butcher, a galactic killer who seeks the extinction of the gods. To combat this threat, Thor enlists the help of King Valkyrie, Korg, and his ex-girlfriend Jane Foster, who, to his surprise, inexplicably wields his magical hammer Mjolnir. Together, they set out on a harrowing cosmic adventure to uncover the mystery of the God Butcher's vengeance and stop him before it's too late. So, what are my thoughts on this movie? Well, unfortunately, I never saw it in theaters, but after watching it on Blu-ray, I thought it was very thrilling and very surprising. And to further explain why I enjoyed it, let's move on to Mustang Notes. The movie was announced in July 2019 after Chris Hemsworth and Taika Waititi were discussing plans for it by January 2018. Director Waititi wanted to differentiate Love and Thunder from Ragnarok, seeking to make it a romance movie and a 1980s inspired adventure. He adapted elements from Jason Aaron's run on the Mighty Thor comic book, which sees Jane Foster on the mantle and powers of Thor while under treatment for cancer. Jennifer Caitlin Robinson joined to contribute to the script in February 2020, and further casting was revealed later that year, including the appearance of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Production was expected to begin in late 2020, but was delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Filming ultimately began in January 2021 at Fox Studios in Sydney, Australia, with Barry Idoine as the director of photography, and it concluded at the beginning of June. The post-production process included 4 editors and a score composed by Michael Giacchino and Nami Melumad, as well as visual effects provided by 23 companies. The film's production budget of $250 million made it one of the most expensive films ever made. After Love and Thunder was released, it grossed over $760 million worldwide, making it the 8th highest grossing film of 2022. Now, in my personal opinion, like the other MCU movies out there, the best part about this movie is the action and fight scenes. And my favorite fight scene was where Thor led a group of children to fight against Gorr's shadow monsters. Plus, I like that this film features several awesome rock and roll hits like Welcome to the Jungle, Paradise City, and Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses, Rainbow in the Dark by Dio, and Our Last Summer by ABBA. Plus, not only is New Asgard featured in this movie, but I also like the new locations like Omnipotent City, which is a floating city home to the major deities of a parliament of pantheons overseen by Zeus, the Olympian king of the gods. The Shadow Realm, which is located in a galaxy of infinite darkness, and Eternity's Realm, which is a dimension that consists of a shallow, endless ocean with cloudy blue skies, which is kind of similar to the final world in the Kingdom Hearts games. In order to reach Eternity's Realm, one must first go to the gates of Eternity and then use the Bifrost to open a portal. Plus, I find it pretty interesting that this movie takes place in the year 2024, which just happens to be next year. And that's basically all I got for Mustang notes. So let's move on to the cast. Our main hero, Thor, is again played by Chris Hemsworth, best known from the 2009 Star Trek reboot, The Cabin in the Woods, the two Huntsman movies, 2015's Vacation, and the 2016 Ghostbusters reboot. During this movie, a year after joining the Guardians of the Galaxy and getting its shape, Thor must go on a mission to warn the other gods and round up an army to fight Gorr. In my opinion, Thor is a great and honorable warrior, and I think his Stormbreaker is still an awesome weapon. However, at the same time, I find Thor to be very sympathetic while going through a midlife crisis as he is trying to figure out his purpose, who he is, and why he's a hero, or whether he should be a hero. Plus, I find it pretty interesting that Chris Hemsworth's twin sons, Sasha and Tristan, portray Thor as a child. Also to note, at the end of the movie, after Gorr's defeat, Thor adopted his daughter Love and trained her while being the protectors of other aliens across the universe. Next we come to Dr. Jane Foster, played by Natalie Portman, whom I remember as Padme Amidala from the Star Wars prequel trilogy, and she was in Tim Burton's Mars Attacks and Cold Mountain. As I mentioned a while ago, Jane was one of countless victims who were snapped by Thanos back in 2018. However, during this movie, ever since she was resurrected by Bruce Banner's blip, Jane has been struggling with stage 4 cancer, and she's been going through chemotherapy in hopes to find a cure. But later, in 2024, after hearing a mysterious call, Jane visits New Asgard to investigate. During her tour, she comes across the broken pieces of Thor's hammer Mjolnir, which reforges and presents itself to her. While wielding the mighty hammer, Jane becomes the mighty Thor, and she teams up with Thor Odinson to fight Gorr the God Butcher and his shadow monsters. To me, like in the first two Thor movies, Jane is a strong, determined woman with a very independent spirit. Plus, she's also slightly quirky, and she can have a very feisty attitude if provoked. Also, as the mighty Thor, I like that Jane does not hesitate in helping out during a fight, and she doesn't shy away with going up against Gorr. Plus, I think her godlike thunder powers are very impressive. However, I felt really sad when Jane died in battle after finding out that Mjolnir was draining her physical and mortal health. And believe it or not, I burst into tears when she told Thor that she loves him before she passed away. Next we come to King Valkyrie, played by Tessa Thompson, who played Lady in the 2019 Disney Plus remake of Lady and the Tramp. Ever since she became king, Valkyrie turned New Asgard into a tourist attraction. However, that role was starting to bore her, and she wished to return to the battlefield. One night, after Gorr the God Butcher attacked, Valkyrie was forced to band together with Thor, Jane, and Korg in order to rescue the children who were kidnapped. In my opinion, like in Ragnarok, Valkyrie is selfless, brave, noble, loyal, and dedicated to her people. And I think she's very resourceful while using Zeus's thunderbolt in battle. Also, at the end of the movie, I like that Valkyrie erected a statue of Jane Foster in honor of her memory. And I like that she trains all the children of New Asgard self-defense classes so that they would be better prepared in a fight. Next we come to Korg, played by director Taika Waititi, whom was in Free Guy and Pixar's Lightyear. To me, like in Ragnarok, Korg is a very civilized and kind-hearted individual, and he can be very humorous at times. Plus, he appears to be well-versed in other cultures, and I like the scenes where Korg narrates a couple flashback moments involving Thor and Jane. Next we have Zeus, the king of the Olympians, played by Russell Crowe, whom was in Master and Commander, 2012's Les Miserables, and the horrendous 2014 Noah movie. In the MCU, Zeus is the leader of Omnipotent City. According to Thor, Zeus was once a noble and courageous warrior, describing him as his very personal hero. However, Zeus grew vain, arrogant, entitled, and selfish, caring only about pleasing himself and the residents of his utopia, as well as boasting about and showing off his might while refusing to aid any outsiders, including Thor and his allies. Above all else, Zeus is egotistical, and he describes the deities slain by the God Butcher as lesser gods, and he displayed no concern for the threat he presented. Finally, we come to the film's main villain, Gorr the God Butcher, played by Christian Bale, whom I remember as Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, in the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, Thomas from Pocahontas, Howl from Hayao Miyazaki's Howl's Moving Castle, and Bagheera from Andy Serkis's Mowgli Legend of the Jungle. Now, Gorr was once a devout and peaceful man, but he sadly lost his faith in the gods after his daughter Love passed away. And he became enraged at how his idol, Rapu, had belittled his suffering. While wielding the Necro Sword, Gorr became corrupted and arrogant, and his main goal is to seek eternity in order to grant his wish to bring about the gods' extinction. What he does in order to achieve his goal was to kidnap the children of New Asgard in order to lure Thor to him, intending to use his Stormbreaker, which is the only power left in the world that can summon the Bifrost. Thankfully, after his Necro Sword was shattered, Gorr was convinced by Thor to choose love over death. So, he uses his wish to resurrect Love, and he entrusted her to Thor, ultimately dying as a content man. Also to note, after this movie, Gorr was mentioned on a mural in Bloodstone Manor in the Disney Plus Halloween special, Werewolf by Night. And now on to my final words. Overall, Thor Love and Thunder was a very thrilling movie. The action scenes were badass, the visuals were amazing, The acting was excellent, especially when it came to Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, and Christian Bale. The musical score was great to listen to, and the songs that played throughout the movie were absolutely awesome. Plus, I thought the movie had decent humor, very thought provoking moments, and the ending really did tug at my heart. So, if you're still a fan of Thor, then I highly recommend you folks to check this movie out. I give this film a 82% out of 100. Well, that's all for now. Join me for my next blog where we look at an animated Netflix film featuring an elephant. Mustang Power.